Next we're going to talk about heart rate and blood pressure. The best way to get resting heart rate would be to do it in the morning when the person first wakes up. Also, another way you could do it is not only do it in the morning, but do it like 3 consecutive days and then average it. So what we're going to go ahead and do is take 2 fingers. So on the thumb side, find the radial pulse, and I feel the beat, and for 60 seconds I'm going to go ahead and count. And we'll figure that out. As far as blood pressure, I'm going to come up here to the bicep and find the brachial pulse. Alright, there it is. If I couldn't find it, I would just, continue. So we're going to wrap this guy on here now. There's an arrow on here, make sure that follows the artery. Wrap it up. Pretty good. Alright. I'm going to have my stethoscope on. I'm going to put it on the brachial pulse. Now I'm going to go ahead and pump up to between 180 and 200. Once I do that, I'm going to let it come down. The first sound I hear is the systolic. The last sound I hear is the diastolic sound. Thank you. Next test is the 3-minute step test. This is to see where a client's at, so where their cardiovascular health is at, where you can start them in the program. If you can jump right into getting some intensity going, or if you need to start at the bottom. So this test is for someone who's already, moderately fit, or at least can move around. It's not going to be for someone who's very sedentary and deconditioned. If you want to do that with those kind of people, you might have to maybe lower it. This is an 18-inch box. You might have to lower it for somebody who's deconditioned, or use less of a time frame, which is 3 minutes. So what's going to happen is Hillary's going to step up and down, so up and down, for 3 minutes at a 24 step per minute pace. What I'll normally do is I'll count for the first 30 seconds, and if she's hitting 12, then we're good. If not, I'll tell her to speed up a little bit. And so I'll be timing her, and she'll do that for 3 minutes. Once the 3 minutes is up, she's going to go ahead and stop, so go ahead and stop. And I'll time 1 minute now. This is her recovery. So when 1 minute's up, I'm going to come over here to radial pulse, and I'll take the pulse for 30 seconds. Alright, so I got my pulse, and now I'm going to put that into the 3-minute step equation, which is the duration of the exercise times 100, so 180 seconds times 100, divided by 5.6 times the resting pulse, whatever I got in that 30 seconds. What you do there with that number you received is you compare it to the table, and it'll tell you, according to National Academy of Sports Medicine, start in level 1, level 2, or level 3. Thank you. Now I'm going to talk about progressing the squat. This is going to be assuming that somebody wants to increase the weight of the squat that they want. Alright, so we already know that they have mobility enough to squat, so in the first phase they're doing a body weight squat. Alright, you got body weight going. Now what we're going to do is let them do a goblet squat. Right here in the front. What this is going to do is it's going to get their erectors going, since the weight's pulling you forward. And also, your arms are going to have to work out to keep the belt from falling downward. So, just going down nice and good. So, form's looking good there. We can increase the weight. Way to increase the weight is not only use 2 dumbbells, but hold them up here in the rack, or kettlebells rather, but hold them up here in the rack position. That way the arms aren't the limiting factor. So we get good at squats here. Eventually, getting kettlebells up there and holding them there is going to be a pain, so we're going to want to move to a bar. In that case, we got the front squat. Alright, so we get good at the front squat, and we make sure that their mobility is good enough. We know everything, we're only here because the mobility is good enough. And now, what's commonly the limiting factor, the low back, is nice and strong, and we can start to practice with the full back squat. Thank you. Next I'm going to talk about regressions for the kettlebell swing. The common limiting factor in the kettlebell swing is that the low back rounds, right there. So what we want to make sure is when we start from the ground up that we're making the not only low back strong, but the person able to differentiate between hip flexion and low back flexion. So what I'm going to have them do is go ahead and start in the quadruped position. And you can put a dowel on their back so that they have a contact between the dowel and the head, thoracic spine, and the sacrum. And what you want them to do is rock back and forth. So this is going to go ahead and teach them how to get hip flexion and not lumbar flexion. Now, if the dowel comes off at any point, you got to stop and keep going until they can get there. From here, we're going to go ahead and do a glute bridge. And the reason we're going here next is because we're still on the floor, so we're still stable, and it's pretty easy. And we'll just keep on working our way up. So now, we're not on our backs anymore, so we got to stabilize our upper torso, but we take our knee stability out of the equation. So again, we're rocking back and forth, and we're still doing the same thing. We're getting hip flexion, not back flexion, right? Now we're going to stand up and do it. So now the knees are involved. Right here, up and back. You can still use the dowel if you need to, but by this time you should be able. The person should be able to do it by themselves. All right. Now, when we want to add some weight, what we'll do is we'll start with kettlebells at the side. You can use a trap bar if you have it. I don't have one right now. But the reason we're doing this is because it's a little bit more of a squat pattern. So the back is going to stay straight up and down, so you can kind of groove that nice motion and be, a little bit safer maybe. But the key is to be able to learn how to pick weights off the ground and go ahead and learn the deadlift maneuver in a safer environment. After that, we can teach it. This would be, a relatively heavy kettlebell, and I'm going to go ahead and have them straddle it. Grab on now, so now they're in the squat, like when we did the trap bar deadlift, or the kettlebell deadlift. And they're going to go ahead and tighten up the lats, lift up a little bit, get a little stretch in the hamstrings, so their back is straight, and then they pop up. And they're down. And I want them to reset each time, okay? And we reset each time so that we have the proper movement each time. Now we're building strength along with the movement we gained. The last step before the kettlebell swing is I'm going to have them do a Romanian deadlift. The reason I picked this as being more advanced than the kettlebell deadlift that we just did is that they have to control it eccentrically, but it's not quite as dynamic as the kettlebell swing, which is our goal right here. So kettlebell swing. And even though we made it to the kettlebell swing, I'm still making sure that their heel's on the ground, their back's not rounding, they're getting movement through the hips.